Roger, from an outsider perspective, what are you seeing as incentivizing folks to participate in this process?
Okay, so this is probably a way too romantic of an answer for a lawyer, and probably going to drive Michael crazy. But my experience at companies is watching, and I equate this to these founders too, watching inventors, innovators react when their invention is out in the market and they see things happening and they're getting paid. They might get a few $1,000s for filing the patent, and they might get a jacket or a glass brick on their desk or whatever, but they're not getting a significantly different amount of money than everyone else in the company. They're shoulder to shoulder with everybody else, but they light up when their invention is out in the market, when it's changing society, it's changing the internet. I've seen some pretty amazing things, and when you have, so I equate that, and the founders that I work with from universities, they have that same spirit, and I think the virtuous sort of cycle for them could be fed by success in the marketplace. Is the business making them a lot of money? That's great, but I think there's something else there. There's changing society, seeing the university technology proliferated out in the market, and making a difference. And so I would say that enabling these entrepreneurs, or even just taking the technology, maybe someone doesn't want to go with it. They don't want to leave the university, but they want to see it proliferate. Make the terms of that, the license agreement, and make the entrepreneur who takes that excited about taking it out to the market and being successful with it. And I think that is the best press you can get, and the most excitement that a person can get is when they see their technology out there happening.
Yeah, and yeah, speaking about commercialization, Reese, you handle the spin-outs that result from FAU research. How important would you say a vibrant startup infrastructure is to TTO success?
Well, of course, it's self-serving, but I think it's critically important. And before I answer the question, I just wanted to tag on a kind of an interesting anecdote. Occasionally, I get the opportunity to work with faculty entrepreneurs. Like, I'm not quite sure if I want to do the entrepreneurship thing, but I have this really great invention, and I've got friends at other universities, but I'm not sure. They're kind of, really conflicted. And so I try to use a little bit of a challenge, a little bit of shame. And I say, you're ascribing to the false choice. You believe there's a choice between doing great research and publishing awesome articles in peer-reviewed journals and getting great grants, being successful commercially and changing the lives of society. Guess what? Your colleagues at Stanford and MIT and Harvard, they're doing both. So why aren't you doing both? And sometimes that competitive spark kind of gets them a little bit. Other times they look at me like I have a third eye on my forehead, but that's okay. So, commercialization, irrespective of the context, on any given day is extremely hard. Most in the room know how challenging it can be. And so, unless your university is either aligned with a community resource or is building their own in a public, and I would advocate private partnerships for that purpose, you're really kind of suiting up the private and throwing them right in the front of the battle and saying, okay, go get them, cowboy. They need instruction. They need a community. They need serial entrepreneurs that are on their side, that are really there to advocate them. And again, coaching sometimes, really pushing tough love at other times. One other quick anecdote. Part of the service that an incubator and accelerator can do is giving the entrepreneur, the faculty entrepreneur, enough insight and information to decide when it's time to shut it down and quit. Everyone, irrespective of whether they're in university or out, they might miss their market window. They might have difficulty raising capital. They might have a point technology where they need an area solution, a package, and they can't get it. Sometimes it's time to quit and move on and look for the next thing or see what you've learned. And I believe that incubators and accelerators offer that rich roux, that stew of resources that they can kind of pick and choose. And it is experiential, really. It is. It's not a prescribed formula program. We provide those opportunities, but it is a process. And it sometimes takes months or sometimes years for them to learn either to be successful or when to shut it down. Or sometimes it's a lifestyle company. They can just earn some service revenue, and that's okay too.
Interesting. So, Stephanie, would you say that enforcement makes university-affiliated entrepreneurs more likely to participate in the invention disclosure process?
I can't say that enforcement per se does. I do think, though, following on some of this, it's the awareness. So if you're in the news because you're standing behind technology that's been invented on campus and you're defending unauthorized use of that technology, it could be it gives some credibility, I think, to the technology transfer office's willingness to do things on behalf of the inventor community that are maybe high risk. And then there's the awareness piece, and I think a lot of it goes back to just being on campus, talking to people over and over again, making sure they're thinking about disclosing. We have an ambassador program where we have graduate students that we fund and that we pay, and then they kind of talk to labs about on campus about disclosing. And so the more we can do that, we've seen more people come to us. We do a program every year where we meet with the deans and we talk to them about their disclosure numbers, and always after that we get some spike in numbers. So it's really just being present, keeping people reminded, and I think to the end that the policies around enforcement could just drive awareness.
Right.